Howdy, y'all. Thanks for watching. I didn't intend to post another video tonight, but it has been such a strange afternoon. Not really strange, but I don't know how to explain it, but I have kind of a sixth sense. And when something is off, I can feel it, and it leaves me with a low level of anxiety. I don't know if it showed up in my previous videos. One set of pipes is working good, my high-pitched parlor pipes. My other set has been giving me trouble, so that's part of the tension. And so, all day today, normally what I do is every 2 weeks, every Thursday, every other week or every 2 weeks, I drive up to Evanston, and looking at my foot, I can't tell if it's lint or it's just lint in the shadow. So, what I do is I go up to Evanston and I buy 2 Roundup Lotto things, and I buy 2 cartons of cigarettes. It's just something that when I got on the COVID thing to keep myself, or not with the COVID, but with the disability thing, to keep myself from going insane, I had to do something to get out of the house once in a while. So I go up to Evanston. It's only an hour up and an hour down. And I've made a couple of friends up there. So anyway, normally I do that every Thursday. Well, I skipped it this week. So that kind of adds to the offset. And then, I've had this like anxiety, and when I went to church, I was intending to go for prayer meeting, but I screwed that up, and got there just in time for service, the evening service. And I walk in, and everybody is mulling around, and all kind of at one time, the head pastor of the church is there. He walks straight up to me, and I've only talked to him once, and he remembered our conversation. So he was chatting with me a little bit, and he introduced me to a new assistant pastor who's going to be taking over for another pastor. And they introduced me to him, and we started talking about, certain things. And then we have a third pastor who is being transferred to Vietnam. Small world. Southern California. I learned to speak, read, and write Vietnamese. So, he's talking to me, and senior pastor's talking to me, and the new assistant pastor's talking to me, and I'm like, I'm just trying to stay low key and, enjoy the church. There's a little bit more freedom, and I didn't push him off or anything like that. I let the conversation finish, and then, they normally have me sit at the back, and I'm fine with that, because there are certain things about a Pentecostal service that, because of my ultra-conservative upbringing, despite who I was when I was a kid, I'm not used to certain things, and it kind of, a big roller coaster kind of thing. So, all this is adding up. Well, they put me up towards the front, four rows from the front, and it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I don't want to be noticed, and I'm just trying to stay low key, keep my mouth shut, because at some point I'm going to say something wrong, because I'm trying my darndest to, I don't know. The sermon was about forgiveness, and couple of other things, but it was mainly about forgiveness and forgiving people's debts and other things like that. And it was actually pretty relevant. And the more I go to church, the more relevant the sermons become. So anyway, I have a person who's kind of like a shepherd, who his name is Elijah, and he always text messages me and sends and makes sure that I'm going to church. Or if he's not pushy, he's very standoffish. He just graduated from high school, and he's persistent. He's not pushy. He's just persistent, and he'll call me 3 times a week. Say, "Are you going to church?" And I have to say, well, during the week I say I'm at work now, and then so I go to church on Sundays. So anyway, there's that. So I'm a little bit overwhelmed by this other stuff, and I've got anxiety going from something that I can't describe. It's like the word is trepidation, and something is off. So my sixth sense is on guard for that. And well, the church service got over with, and I drove past the house because I felt like something was off. And then I went over to the gas station. Then I'm driving the GMC right now, and I'm still feeling like, I'm out of pattern. Something's wrong. Something's not right. And the bagpipes were giving me a little bit of trouble today, which I can post a different video on that, because then it'll turn into a half-hour dialogue. So, just kidding. So, I'm like, okay, well, I need to relieve this stress of something's not right. So, I get in the truck, or I drove past the house in the truck, and I went down to fill up the tanks, because I was down. One tank was empty and the other one was half full. And that much fuel in my GMC will last me 6 weeks, because I don't do a lot of driving and stuff like that. So I went to one gas station and filled up one side, and then at another gas station I get a 5 cent per gallon discount. Yeah, frog in my throat. So I went over to the other gas station and got my 5 cent discount. And they had all the coffee machines shut down. Well, I drink coffee. I sip coffee all day long. That's just me, instead of Coca-Cola or tea or whiskey, which I don't care if somebody else drinks whiskey, sips whiskey, and keeps that kind of lubrication going all day long. But anyway, so I'm even further at ease, because I want to go to Evanston and do my lotto tickets and buy my cigarettes, because I'm a day out from my normal schedule. And so I got my fuel and hopped on the freeway, and I'm still feeling this angst. So I got up. I went from Ogden, and I got up to a place called Morgan County, which is about 10 or 13 miles up. And I looked down, and my temp gauge is at 200 degrees, which, if you're familiar with a GMC square body truck, the 200 degrees, if you have a 190 degree thermostat in there, it runs just slightly under that, the temperature gauge. So it was running 200 degrees. And I'm, it's still in the okay zone, but that's hotter than what I want to do with this truck. So I got to Morgan County, took the off ramp, came back around, and went down back into Ogden. And since I didn't have any cigarettes, I pulled over at the Phillips 66, which is just off of exit 343. And it's the weirdest thing. pulled in, shut the truck off. 200 degrees isn't anything to worry about with this truck, because I run a hot thermostat for my own reasons. You know, a lot of hot rodders run 160 degree thermostats, or they don't run a thermostat at all. That's a totally different story. So I go in, I chit chat with the guy at the counter, because it's a weird time of night where there's nobody there. And so he's in the beer cooler. So I bought my cigarettes, I bought some corn chips, because the feeling was just getting overwhelming. And I got my chips and some bean dip, and I walked out the door, and I got about 4 paces out the door, and my truck just overheated. Like, it blew a radiator hose. And there's this guy, he's all, that's a bitchin' truck. He's talking to me about how cool he wants my truck is, and how straight it is, and this, that. He's like, do you want to sell it? You know, I'll buy it from you right now. And I'm like, well, $6,000 for this truck, California truck, no rust. And he didn't blink an eye. And I'm like, well, in my head, I'm thinking, this is my last running vehicle right now. So the truck overheated. The temperature gauge didn't go tip over to way hot. So I'm like, well, it just blew the hose, and I couldn't see if it was upper or lower because the lighting is so bad. The fluorescent lighting in gas stations is one of the most annoying things, because it sheds light, but it shadows so bad you can't see what's going on. So I'm like, well, I've blown a hose before. What I'll do is I'll watch the temp gauge, drive up over the hill. If it gets too hot, you know, over 225, 250 degrees-ish on the square body GMC truck. So I get over the hill, and I get just to the 7-Eleven, and the engine shuts off, which means it's overheated. And then as soon as I shut the engine off, the temp gauge goes doink all the way to the end. So I spent probably 2 hours letting the engine cool down. I walked over to the 7-Eleven, and I bought 6 bottles of the 1.5 gallon or 2 gallon bottles of just straight water. It's summertime, I don't have to worry about this. And I finally, you know, got out my phone and looked at it, at my truck, is the upper radiator hose. And when I have to admit, I don't know how old that radiator hose is, because it was on there when I got the truck. And I've done the cylinder heads twice on it. Well, I've done one cylinder head at one time, and then the other cylinder head at another time. And during that time, you had to pull the intake manifold off, and that's puts stress on the hose. But that was 6 or 7 years ago in Kentucky. So I sat there and let the engine cool down a bit until I started seeing the gauge come down. I didn't hear anything boiling. So I slowly pulled the water in, poured the water in to... When I saw steam, I would stop pouring and wait till the steam stopped. So, no, I didn't hear any pings or cracking sounds or anything like that from the engine being El Destructo. So, you know, it took me a couple hours to be very patient and everything like that, and I slowly poured water in, and then finally when I stopped seeing steam come out the hole in the upper radiator hose, I was able to pour the rest of the water in until the water started coming out the upper hose. And then the truck started right up. At first, it had a little bit of trouble running, but you know, brake and throttle. And then temp gauge went all the way back down to 100. So I got stuck at one light, and so I had throttle brake. And once that went, it was only about a mile or less to the house. And when I got to the house, well, I drove past a cop with my flashers on, and I did a short stop at an intersection, and I think he kind of surmised that I was in a position that where I can't stop because I got the flashers going. That means something's wrong. So he didn't do anything. I made it to the driveway of the house, and I got my gate closed, and I was able to let the truck idle. The truck idled just fine. It has a couple of low cylinders. It's not blowing smoke, but their cylinder head valve guides or something like that. Because when I did the head gaskets, all I did was put new valve seals on, and they were the umbrella seals. So it gets the puff of smoke if it's idling, because I had the timing set pretty high and the vacuum's pretty high. And so anyway, it idled just fine. Still sounded chugga, kind of not a dead cylinder. It's a low cylinder. There's a difference in because going down the road is perfectly smooth. Got in, pulled into the driveway, and it wasn't overheating or anything like that. Of course, it was steaming from the water coming out the upper hose. And so that's my story. I knew something was wrong. Something was going to happen. My sixth sense was telling me, you know, don't go to Evanston. But see, the thing is, this truck has never left me stranded. So, for as long as I've had it. So, but that wasn't in the cards. I wasn't thinking about that. But that's, something else was telling me that something's not right and that I wasn't supposed to go to Evanston. Because I had anxiety about that because I was so far out of my normal pattern that, and plus I had technical problems with the bagpipes. So, you know, a little frustration, and then the trepidation, and then the anxiety, it all kind of stacked up, and whatever was telling me was wrong happened at the gas station. And it happened after I went into the gas station and came out, and then boom. And I mean, it really, really let loose. So, yeah, I checked the water on my truck regularly. And so I know it wasn't low. Because the hose just had... Now, I have to admit, I put a 16-pound cap on it. And the reason why is because you can run the engine hotter. The pressure, it won't overheat as soon. But when it does let go, it lets go. And it was pretty dramatic at the gas station. Because it was loud. When it was like a tire popping when it went. So anyway, that's my story for today. It was just a weird day. It was a good day because I got, well, I don't like being singled out, and I don't really want to be, when I'm in a crowd of people, I prefer to be in the background. I don't have to be out front unless I'm bagpiping. If I'm bagpiping, that's different, and if I'm busking, that's different. So anyway, that's my story, my weird story for today. I made it home. The truck's home. The truck's still running. I probably damaged it a little bit. But it's the original engine from 1984. So, you know, I've been thinking about getting an engine. But I need an engine hoist. And because the truck's so tall, a regular crane type engine hoist isn't going to do. I'm going to have to get an A-frame type thing because the truck is just tall. and I won't be able to the engine won't be able to clear the radiator support and all that stuff and all that. And I've changed engines before by myself, so I'm not going to be stupid. And so that's my story. Fortunately, I picked a house where I can walk to work in 6 minutes, and all my routes that I'm doing are all local to Ogden, and so I don't have to spend all my personal time traveling around to meet my routes. So I got the upper radiator hose to fix tomorrow. I got the fuel pump on the Crown Vic that needs to be done, and then the excursion is doing normal excursion stuff for a vehicle that has never been maintained properly. And I started maintaining it, but there are certain things that with these modern cars that haven't been done with it that should have been done with it. And I've gotten almost 30,000 miles out of it with basically putting zero money into it other than gas and tires. So I can't complain about that. It's just, after being on disability and all that stuff, everything's starting to come to a head. But fortunately, my forethinking has left me in a spot where I'm not stranded. I'm just inconvenienced because I like going to Evanston. I like the people up there, and met a couple people that are pretty nice. One guy from Chicago, and I'm not from Chicago, but we have kind of big city stories, and he's kind of like my good luck guy, because every time I buy a roundup from him, I always win. Not big dollars, but I always win. I walk away with something, even if I'm at a loss for purchasing the tickets. So I still come away with some. That's gambling. That's what gambling does. It baits you, and then gives you a small return, and then you get excited and you keep doing that. So that's it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I appreciate all my subscribers. And I'll probably do one more video tonight because I'm bored, and it's still pretty early. Well, not anymore. But anyway, there it is. Thanks for watching. And more bagpiping stuff. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with my low pitch pipes, because the blowpipe valves, separate story, separate video. And there it is. Thank you, and have a good night. And let's see, by the time you watch this, it'll be Monday. So happy Monday, and bye.